There. Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be talking with Jen Wiedman. She's a Fourth Space founder, a passionate feminist and accredited mental health social worker who's in the business of human and social change. Jen saw a huge problem and a gap in social services sector. People needed quality, accessible mental health support when they needed it the most. We're not getting it, and Jen established Fourth Space as a social enterprise stream of her private practice business to allow for greater innovation, collaboration and creativity in the mental health, homelessness and domestic violence intersectionalities. Yes, welcome, Jen.
Thanks, David.
Thanks. I did give a little introduction there, but I'd like you to tell us about yourself, your journey that's led you here and what Fourth Space's purpose is and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for this opportunity. It's so great to be here. Super briefly, Fourth Space has basically come out of a really long-term passion of mine to really be where our most vulnerable community members are. Our purpose is to connect people and make their lives better by using that mental health support as a bridge. So I guess I came into it from my own journey many years ago. Being in the sector for 15 plus years, I've seen a lot of different workplaces and a lot of different issues. I've been in homelessness sectors, I've been in public health, I've been in non-government organisations and alternative flexible education centres for youth. I've done a bit of policy and program management work in government and done some NGO infrastructure support overseas through AusAid. So with all of those experiences, kind of led me to think, well, what really am I heading towards? What's my passion? And how can I bring my skill set and my passion together to address the needs that I'm seeing? So I do have a lived experience of homelessness as well for a brief period of time, coming off the back of a domestic violent relationship. And I know that it's a really difficult place for many people to be in. So with all of that combined, I set about filling this need. And so a couple of years ago, I used my existing network and approached a women's shelter where I worked to see how we could pilot providing counselling on site. And so from there, we kind of just grew. It's myself and a small team at the moment, and we're growing because, the demand is there. People need counselling support to help kind of get through that really tricky time when things are just all a bit too much, it's all chaotic and it's all confusing. And so we really just try and simplify things, cut to the chase, and just be there when people need it. Yeah.
So what triggered going into the social enterprise space? Was it your own experience around the homelessness and DV, or were there other people you were dealing with? Was there a particular trigger?
Good question about the social enterprise space. The model of social enterprise just seemed to fit beautifully because this isn't a business that certainly is known for being highly profitable, and it's nothing that I set out to intend to do at all. So really anything in terms of income generation just goes straight back into making the business bigger and better and more accessible for the people we're working with. So I knew nothing of social enterprises. I started from scratch and I'm learning so much. But as soon as I kind of thought, well, this isn't a mainstream private practice. I'm not kind of operating like other people seem to be operating. What am I? Who am I? What am I doing? Oh, look, there's this thing called social enterprise. That seems to be what I'm doing, and that fits with the values that we have. So, hey, let's head in that direction. And I guess that kind of momentum and that structure has been really validating and really energizing, because it's that kind of spirit of maximizing our impact. It's not just an individual impact, it's that kind of layered family and community and social and economical impact as well. So yeah, that's the social enterprise pathway just kind of accidentally happened, but I mean, now it seems like how could it ever have not happened?
Yeah, well, I feel the same. As you know, we're
Yeah.
also involved in social enterprise, and it's when you find that passion and the purpose, and when the need is just so great. Uh, I think it's easy to be driven, and it's quite clear how driven you are. And I'm wondering, we've both got. I won't go into too much of it, but we've both got a friend who had another friend take his own life a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And around some of these issues, when is this the sort of thing, if people can see some signs or they're a bit unsure, can they open up, say, have a talk with you, or should they refer people to you? What's the process around that if people are concerned about others around them?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I guess it's just many layered, it's twofold. So if people are themselves concerned about how they're feeling or being able to cope with life, then mostly we see people withdrawing, and that's that high risk space. So I guess I would certainly encourage people to be brave and just talk to someone, make that first step, whether it's someone they know or a total stranger, a professional on a phone line, or making an appointment with us. It's just starting that conversation if you're in that vulnerable space, and it's hard. It is hard. Sometimes it even starts with writing things down and being able to get comfortable expressing your worries and how you feel. And if you're a person who or if you know a person who is feeling low in mood and has suicidal thoughts from time to time, or at a particular time, and you're aware of that person, then be brave and make that step and connect with them. Ask, hey, I've noticed you seem a bit down lately. Want to have a coffee? Want to go for a walk? Want to have a chat? Hey, I might not, be a professional in this space, but I am here listening to you, and maybe I can, connect you to the right place. It really is about extending ourselves both as an offer of help and as a seeker of help. And by all means, people can just reach out to us as well, via even text, call, or email, and we just make that as easy as possible. There are also those kind of 24-hour crisis lines, which Fourth Space doesn't operate in that space, but if we do have people calling through for that, we can certainly help support you to get to the right space. Yeah, because it's tough. Everyone's managing a lot.
It's certainly a hard time, and I think the main thing there is to be brave and take some sort of action, reach out, communicate, just open the conversation, whether it's with Jen, with yourself, or one of the helplines, just anything, but maintaining that connection and having the courage, whether you're seeking it or it's on behalf of someone else that you're concerned about.
Yeah.
So right now, it is such a hard and challenging time for so many people. And what are some of the most, both the most challenging and most common mental health issues people are facing that you're seeing at the moment?
Oh, absolutely, David. I mean, it'd be hard picked to find anyone that's not kind of feeling a certain kind of mental health issue way. And mental health is a full spectrum, right? It's ranges from good to bad within a day and within weeks. So most commonly, people experience intermittent, depressive symptoms and feelings of low mood. We feel kind of a bit hopeless sometimes, a bit what's the point, a bit it's all a bit too hard. And medically those things are called depression, but I just kind of like to call it dealing with real life sometimes, and just to kind of take that stigma away. Life can be really hard. Yeah, so we
Yeah, I was
see.
thinking the stigma side. Sorry, the stigma side you
Yeah,
mentioned. I was thinking about it a lot. That's one of the challenges to overcome as well, I think, within
absolutely.
the community.
Absolutely, you're right. And I think just kind of, for me at least, our approach is to normalize it, validate it, and remove some of those kind of scarier medical sounding words and just say it for what it is. I'm really struggling lately. I've got a low mood at the moment. I'm having trouble sleeping. And my energy is really low. And so all those things, I mean, they are depressive symptoms, as if you want to kind of put a label on it that way. So we see a lot of that. We see a lot of anxiety too, and that's another full spectrum, and that can be broken down into things like I probably worry a bit more than I should. I think about multiple avenues of things going wrong, and I find it really hard to be in the present moment. I find it hard to let go of stress, and I find myself getting really fixated on certain thoughts. So all of that, all of those thinkings and feelings and behaviours, they're in that kind of anxiety category. So there's a lot of that. And then also really, really common is unfortunately those issues coming out in violence. So we see a lot of behavioural kind of elements of mental health as well. And substance use comes in there as well. So at the moment, people are certainly presenting with all of that, and yeah, I guess our message is, that's really normal. It's really normal to
So,
have lots of these feelings.
so addressing some of those feelings then also has an impact on things like domestic violence, and that
Yeah.
where not necessarily the violence or the anger itself is the issue, but as something, or it becomes the issue, but the actual cause is something behind that you can
Mm.
address.
Yeah, that's right. And it's all, it can be quite interwoven and quite complex. So certainly with, things like violence, there's often, attitudes and beliefs around genders and roles and things like that. And, embedded in our kind of upbringing of our upbringing in a patriarchal system for thousands of years, to be honest. So there's that kind of back end as well, all layered on top of us. We're conditioned in certain ways. And we see it come out in stress. We see it come out in things like gender norms and, the worries attached to, hey, I'm a certain breadwinner of a household and I'm carrying a financial stress for us, and my feelings of anxiety are higher, and I don't know how to express those. So there's a whole lot of complexity there. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
I think one thing there, it's hard. We judge so easily. We attach labels and things. And I'm coming back to when you talked about courage and that, whether it's about the suicide and depression or anxiety or anything else, whether it's violence, it's some of it you almost have to set for your friends, for people your neighbours. Set your judgment aside and just focus on opening up the conversation and getting help. I think, and certainly have to get help with a professional. As you said, there's so many underlying complex factors that lead to it.
Yeah, absolutely. The best thing anyone can do is listen and validate how someone's feeling. You know what it's like when you open up and you don't, you kind of maybe get met with a shutdown or, oh, you'll be right, or it kind of feels like, oh, a bit invalidating. So yeah, the best thing anyone can do is just, I hear that would be really hard for you right now. I get that.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you've ever, have you spoken with Leanne Butterworth?
Yes, I have. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
amazing.
Lose Your Mind. Yeah, because
Yes.
she talks a lot around the empathy.
Yes.
And some of it, some of the terms and phrases we so often use with our friends actually have almost a negative sort of effect on it. When you talk about knowing how someone feels or dismissing it or it'll be all right.
That's
and
right.
there's much better ways of displaying empathy.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And really breaking down what it means to be empathetic. Yeah, she's the empathy queen. I highly recommend a good chat with Leanne.
Yeah, I'll try, because I know I've got a lot to learn in that area, because, as you said, we all come from our backgrounds and literally thousands of years of the patriarchal system, and all these things that come through at the generations that we might not realise it, but they make up who we are. And a lot of it we've got to overcome. The world's changing, and a lot of struggles around that. So it brings me to one spot, thinking of the world and community, when and the work that I do with Mind for Me, it's around people helping each other. So it's very community, very simple sort of support and assistance. But in these mental health issues, what can the general community do for their neighbours, for society, in a very simple sort of way? What can community do to help address or simplify or stop contributing to the issues that cause mental health problems?
Oh, David, that's, you really hit the nail on the head there. Such a beautiful combination of the space that I operate in and the space that you operate in, and how they can come together. Because this is really where that rubber hits the road. The work that you're doing in Mind for Me is just so critical to help really kind of carry on that work in a community sense. While a Fourth Space might operate in an individual, one-on-one kind of counselling way, that work can be amplified through the Mind for Me activities, where community members are helping one another. And that flow-on effect is amazing. That amplifies and strengthens the bonds between people. Interpersonal relationships is one of the key components to recovering from mental health and longevity in life. And we know the stats around loneliness is one of the biggest chronic diseases coming up in our current lifestyle. So the work that Mind for Me is doing is really breaking that down and starting to reconnect. And we've seen this, more and more even recently. So, the way that the general community can really utilise the Mind for Me platform to harness this further really is around, it's not just the practical tasks. And I think that for me, that's a really important component. The practical tasks are almost a means to this end, which is they're the doing of the connecting, and they're the doing of the breaking down of silos. So while a person might offer to do groceries for the neighbour or the lawn for the neighbour, that's magnificent, and people, we need help with tasks. But in a broader impact kind of way, it's really around the relationships that are being built from that, and knowing that someone's there for you just has such a monumental effect. If you've come from a journey or a story or a background of trauma that no one might not even know about, first of all, you're pretty isolated already, and you're pretty used to just thinking that you've got to figure things out on your own, but really you don't, and that's one of the key areas that I see Mind for Me kind of playing into, that space of demonstrating you don't have to go it alone. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to think that you do. You don't have to carry this load. I've got to do this, and I've got to do that, and I've got to do this, and I've got to race around, and I've got to juggle all these things. Actually, when we learn to ask for help, when we learn to invite other people in, when we learn to help seek, I guess is another word for that, and be proactive in asking for what we need, we get reduced stress, pressure comes off, the mental health issues do decrease. You're not alone. You are also breaking down the stigma of thinking that you have to do it all the time. And that's simply, again, that's a way we've been conditioned. and that's a symptom of our modern day life. And so, the Mind for Me platform really has an opportunity to show people that you can't do it on your own, and that's okay, and it's so normal to ask for help. It really normalizes, all that stuff we talk about, being brave and being vulnerable, and and forging those connections. What I really love, David, is that it also, sorry, you were just going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, it's so funny that we've become so like self-reliant, and we think that we have to solve all of our problems ourselves. And the way that I see it, we're all in this game of life together. We're all wanting to do better for ourselves and our family, and we want to enjoy life and spend time the way we want to enjoy it. And so often we're doing tasks we don't enjoy and we're not great at, or we go without. And that's one thing in my head, I just don't understand why we do it so alone. When that's where I started thinking about this back in 2007, that there's people all around us. We're all in this together, and if people don't know that you need help, whether it's help on mental health issues, anxieties, or other things, or the tangible physical sort of tasks, moving furniture around, or hanging a painting on a wall, doing the washing if your washing machine's broken down, or you don't enjoy the ironing but you prefer mowing, all these little things. Instead, we stop engaging with each other. Yes. And I'm not sure where that happened, because my memory growing up was, I'm very fond of my childhood. And I had strict parents, but I enjoyed life, and we knew the neighbours, and we used to do a lot with them.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. And this is the way communities used to be built, and in many cultures they still are. It's around, takes a community, takes a village kind of thing. I think, we've been conditioned in generally a more Western society to operate in silos and stay in our lane, and behind our fences. And to be honest, that's where a lot of the issues that we see come up, is in the private space where no one knows about things. They're hidden, they're shadows, and people aren't checking in enough. And by having, the work of Mind for Me, starting to break those fences and those barriers down, those connections are, relationships are invaluable. You cannot put a price on relationships. It means that you're having conversations and checking in with people about daily stuff, but over time, deeper and deeper conversations can occur. And I guess, you can't, you just can't put a value on how important that is.
Yeah, so to sum up everything, we've covered quite a bit in such a short space.
Gosh, yeah.
I think to sum it up in ways, all of it, whether it's your work with Fourth Space or Mind for Me, some of it's things people can do. There's different sources of help, the helplines. Firstly, to sum it up, I think it's having the courage, understanding and identifying that people may have an issue, not to judge, not to put a label on it, just to see that there is something to open up with courage to have a conversation or to point them towards some form of help. It's also learning, I think, true empathy and being careful in how you communicate if you're going to touch on those areas, and be together more, look out for one another more, whether it's the normal sort of task or just a conversation with your neighbours, just anything. But following on from that, is there any last things you might add to it that people might be able to do, think about, turn to, or anything like that?
Oh, David, that's a really good summary. And, you and I could talk for probably hours on this. So stay tuned for part 2, everyone. Look, you've summed that up really well. I think, David, the connection that humans can make can resolve and work towards resolving a lot of the mental health issues that we're seeing, a lot of the community and social issues that we're seeing in terms of homelessness and domestic violence. I think the stronger we can work together in our neighbourhoods, in particular, and with our local communities, the flow-on effect of that we will start to see over time. So, yep, you're right. On a micro scale, on an individual scale, be brave, check in. And when you're having that thought of, oh, I wonder how such and such is going, or, oh, I haven't seen, what's her face in a while, or, gee, that grass is looking pretty long, or, oh, I could use a hand with the kids this weekend because I'm running out of steam. My cup's empty. I need a rest, because it goes both ways. Then, yeah, when you're having the thought, take the thought and be brave enough to make it into an action and just take that first leap. And I think that's the part that we get scared about. And that's the part that once you see the benefits of, you feel the benefits of it, you'll want to do it more and more.
Yeah, I agree. And the funny thing is we are scared of it, and we're not always having a little bit of courage to get that help or engage with others. But the thing is, it's actually very simple and very human to do it once you get into the practice of it and a bit of a habit of not closing off so much.
Yes, exactly. So, just takes a bit of practice.
Yeah, so hopefully people out there can just take those little steps and keep moving forward, and we can become better connected, better engaged communities, and at the same time, indirectly, without that much effort, start attacking these mental health issues.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Thanks, Jen. Really appreciate your time today, and I think it'd be great to have a part 2. So we'll hopefully we'll have a talk soon.
Pleasure. Sounds good. Anytime. Talk to you soon, mate.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.